Accessing agent files. Brian Sovryn. Early 21st century anarchist. Creator and host of the podcast Sovryn Tech. By the year 2021, the show would be instrumental in the downfall of various conservative ideologies in the government, helping usher in an incredible time.
Hey, want to take a walk on the wild side and experience the bleeding edge of technology? Then get ready, because it doesn't get much more edgy than this. You're in for a wild ride. You're listening to Sovryn Tech with your host, the man in triple black, the golden stallion of the tech world, Brian Sovryn. He's got a huge brain. And now here's Brian.
The Libertine-in-Chief, here for you. Solo time, this time, baby. A lot of people have really enjoyed. Recently, I've started having guests on the show, guest appearances by various luminaries, and a lot of people have really enjoyed having them on. But this week, maybe I'll start making that a standard. By episode 100, I do want to make more changes with the show. It's good to always keep shaking things up, you know what I mean? Maybe I'll go with that. So, of course, last week's episode is all about NXT, the cryptocurrency. Some people loved it, some people not so much loved it. But by and large, very positive responses to it, and I'm glad you really enjoyed it. So let's go ahead. Let's get right into the rapid fire stories. I've got a lot I want to talk about this week. In fact, it's one of those episodes where I had a hard time deciding what the hell I was going to talk about. Everything seems so prevalent. I don't like to jump on news as it happens, but sometimes you need to. Sometimes you got to get the word out as fast as possible. And so there's some things I want to talk about where that's the case. But so much to discuss. There really is. And I'm going to try and keep as calm as I can. But rapid fire stories. Here we go. Speaking of NXT, somebody emailed, this is kind of an impromptu important email, or somebody bit messaged me, I should say. And of course I am on BitMessage. You can find all that in the show notes. Anything. If you want to donate to the show, if you want to find ways to get in touch with the show, it's all in the show notes. Just got to find it there. But anyway, someone bit messaged me and asked, hey, I don't think that NXT's messaging service is encrypted. And actually the person was right, because in the episode it had been claimed that it was encrypted. It's not encrypted, but probably by the time you hear this, if not very shortly after, within the coming week, encrypted messaging for NXT will be real and in existence. So just to clarify that. Also, I heard, we're going to talk about email quite a bit in this episode at certain points. But CryptaMail, and that's crypta, not crypto. CryptaMail is an email service, an encrypted email service that is getting built onto the NXT blockchain. So not just encrypted messaging, but also we're going to end up with encrypted emails with CryptaMail, and you can look into all those things. I'm going to put a bunch of notes in the show notes. There's going to be an appendix where you could look at various links of things I'm going to talk about, because I have quite a bit to talk about, but they may not be directly, I can't hot link them into the subject I'm bringing on. So just to clarify that, there you have it. And it's important when I'm wrong, I'm wrong, or when I state something inaccurate, I want to make sure that it gets out there. One of the easiest ways that I can do that is actually to put notes on the SoundCloud page at sovryntech.com, which is the SoundCloud page. And, just put a quick addendum on there, and it really makes things simple. Or people can correct me that way, which is also very slick. So you can it's always a good idea to look at the notes on the actual episode on sovryntech.com. Look at the little messages right on the sound. You'll see them. And of course you can comment there too. Anyway, so yeah, we've got encrypted messaging coming with NXT. We've got CryptaMail, which is email getting built on top of NXT. Really exciting stuff. But shifting gears, and this is important because I'm going to talk a lot about various blockchain technologies in the first bit of this episode. Okay. But I want to make it clear to people, this show is not specifically, nor do I ever want it to be predominantly about blockchain technology. Okay. Just making sure that that's totally clear. Even though I do talk about it quite a bit, of course, it's some of the, really exciting tech out there and some of the newest tech out there. It's not something that I want to concentrate on all the time. I like talking a lot more about science and some of the more intriguing tech solutions or technologies out there. So, and actually, I got an email from somebody. This was really nice. I got an email from somebody that said, look, if you want to talk for 2 hours about the Book of Enoch, you just knock yourself out and go for it. And I was like, oh, great. So my listeners they don't mind whatever topic I really want to bring up. They seem to enjoy, and I'm so happy that you do. Moving on. So switching gears from cryptocurrencies, though only for a second. The NVIDIA Shield tablet. This is exciting. Within a few days of this episode getting released, this will be released. The NVIDIA Shield tablet. It is an Android, little 7-inch, I think, tablet, and has the Tegra K1, which is probably the most powerful ARM processor, or not, well, the most powerful mobile processor, I'll say, out there. A lot of Chromebooks are going to get built onto it too. So this is a really interesting new architecture that NVIDIA has released. It has 2 gig of RAM, great sound, all the touch stuff comes with the stylus, a lot like the Tegra Note 7, which I actually talked about on Sovryn Tech in the past. This is pretty cool, and it's designed obviously for gaming. It's going to have some games that are pretty exclusive to it they're not exclusive to it. They're still on the PC, or you can get them in other platforms, I should say, but they're exclusive for Android on Shield devices. And they're mainly big PC games like Trine 2, and some others. So this is a pretty decently spec'd device, and it's interesting that they're splitting it up, because you had the NVIDIA Shield, gaming device. You wouldn't want to call it a tablet because it's really a controller with a 5-inch screen built onto it. This is definitely the sequel to that, and NVIDIA is really pushing this whole thing. And it's ironic because you're hearing from a lot of other tech sources that tablets are dying and that sales are down on tablets. Now, I mean, when sales are down, that might just mean that these tablets, they built them too well and people are just using the same old tablets. Like I know Apple released their, they did their investment calls, and the iPad apparently did terrible for the first time in forever. And maybe that's just because everybody's sticking with their iPad 2s. They're not falling for the shit anymore of, okay, yeah, you come out with a new product every year. That doesn't mean that I need it. And I think that's great. Good. I'm glad your tablet sales are down, but that doesn't necessarily mean the tablets are dead and buried. It is one of the more secure devices that you can have out there today, in my opinion. So the NVIDIA Shield tablet looks really nice, sells for $300, but they are splitting up. They're like, this is the point I was going to get to, is that unlike the NVIDIA Shield from last year, which is the controller is actually separate from the device in this case. And it all looks pretty solid. It looks pretty good. So check it out. It's $300 for that, but then you have to buy the controller, which is another, I don't know, $40, $50. And then there's a cover that you can buy for another $30. And so maybe that's the new way to make money on everything, is to just accessorize the shit out of whatever you release. And but I like the look of the NVIDIA Shield tablet. It's got great specs. If you're looking to buy a tablet, this is not a bad choice at all. The only thing I heard that might have been rough is that the camera's a little odd. So anyway, just putting that out there. I've talked about in the past how I thought mobile gaming was going to be the future. I could be wrong about that, but I'll save that topic for another time. See, when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But a lot of times I'm pretty right. Speaking of me being right, guess who just came out with a wallet app this week? Amazon. Duh. And they're knocking on the door of Bitcoin, saying, hey, we're going to be everywhere way before you are. And I think that's the case. Now, the Amazon wallet right now is just in beta. It's not available on iOS, and there may not be a point to it being on iOS. But and actually, boys, all right, let me move on. With Amazon, like I said, they have the perfect placement because of their creation of cheap Kindle point of sale devices that they will sell to every retail brick and mortar store out there. Okay. And because they are so prevalent online, I mean, seemingly everybody orders from Amazon all around the world. Okay. And they have their Amazon TV. They've got their Fire phone that just got released this week. They've got their Kindle Fire HDX tablets out there right now. And we're going to talk about another Kindle thing coming out, the Kindle Unlimited. You've got all this. They have the broadest infrastructure out there, bar none. And now they just released their wallet. Now the wallet can only do gift cards right now. Right now. Give them just a little bit of time. And before you know it, you're going to be using this wallet app to pay for everything. And why not? Amazon already has your credit card information. Amazon already has all this information, blah, 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 on you. And they already allow you to do bill payments with Amazon payments. They already allow you to do all this stuff. It's already all there. And now, see, people said I was fucking crazy. They said, oh, Golden Stallion, you're nuts. Amazon's not bigger than Bitcoin. Bitcoin forever. Guess not. Maybe I'm not so crazy because suddenly Amazon comes out with a fucking wallet app. Anyway, moving on. Kindle Unlimited. This is kind of creepy. A lot of people ask me about Kindle Unlimited and what I thought about it. And you know what? I'm going to save talking about Kindle Unlimited for important emails. So hold out for that. Because so many people asked about it, I don't necessarily want to take up all the time talking about it here. Moving on. So, all these things like digital payment services and all of this really they require a lot of interconnectivity, and interconnectivity is an issue. Now, it's not just an issue in West Bumfuck. Okay. It's not just an issue when you're, in the White Mountains or wherever you happen to be. Connectivity can be an issue. Connectivity of your device, be a 3G signal, Wi-Fi, whatever, can be an issue in the heart of a city. It really can. And interestingly, some people have come up with the idea of how to solve that, to be able to do our digital payment world that Amazon is bringing on far faster than anybody else. And this is in New York City. They are actually transforming payphones, or there's an appeal to transform payphones into Wi-Fi hotspots, totally open Wi-Fi hotspots. Now, I think this is a pretty great idea. I actually kind of still wish there were payphones, but they're not. But this is if you've got the damn things there, then let's do something with them. I'm totally on board with that. So that is the idea going around, and that will certainly help things. Because actually in New York City is a great case where I, was trying to navigate New York City, and like my GPS device didn't work. Google Maps wasn't working. Had to go into an offline map solution, caused really a great mess. And this was just, a couple months ago. For the lovely and hyper intelligent Dr. Stephanie Murphy and I. And so, this would be a very helpful thing to have, right on the ground floor, to have to have these payphones being Wi-Fi hotspots. And some tech journalists have brought up the great point is this going to change the nature of real estate or in New York City, because people are going to want to be nearby this great gigabit Wi-Fi that they're going to connect to these old payphone stations. What's going to become prime real estate there. And I think that's an interesting thing to consider, but, no real need to go into that. Microsoft, some other people have asked about this. Microsoft laying off 18,000 workers. This is a company, that hires like 250,000 people. 18,000 workers is pretty small potatoes in that number, admittedly. And when they bought out Nokia, most of this, a lot of people are just saying that these layoffs, or, that these firings, are just the Nokia, workers, factory workers, whatever, that when they bought out Nokia. And of course, politicians in Finland are very depressed about this. But actually, this is pretty well across the board. There's a lot of people in the Windows development team, a lot of people in the Xbox development team. A lot of these people are getting the boot. And, Microsoft is really trying to kind of hone in on what it's doing. And a lot of that has to do with Satya Nadella's new vision for the company. It may not be that new, but I'll comment on this more maybe in a future episode, I'm going to talk about Microsoft's direction. So, but it did happen, but I just wanted to make sure it was clear. A lot of people seemed confused that, oh, they're just getting rid of the Nokia people. No, it's not about that. It was really across the board, and Microsoft, I think it's a topic that we'll need to discuss. Anyway, another interesting device, we talked about a few devices here, but another interesting device that came out is goTenna. It hasn't come out yet. You can check it out. I'll put a link in the appendix for it. And you can order it for like $150 now. They do accept Bitcoin. What goTenna is it connects to your smartphone with an app via Bluetooth, and it will allow you, with a distance up to 50 some odd miles, okay, if you're really in the clear really well, to communicate even if you don't have a cell signal. Talk about solutions for when you don't have signal. This is one of the best I've seen. So they are accepting, you can get it for $150 now. When it finally comes out, it'll sell for $300 a pop. But a pop is a pair. You get two of them when you buy them. So I recommend looking into this. Again, link in the show notes. goTenna looks really exciting. Had a couple listeners share it with me. And this is, actually this is kind of a mesh networking solution, really, that I think people might want to check out. It'll be interesting to find out what they're doing as far as encryption. That hasn't really been laid out very well. And now one final point is that the FBI says self-driving cars, oh boy, could be helpful to criminals, and that there may need to be some very serious legislation. When I say they're not going to the government's not going to let self-driving cars get on the road, I don't think they are, not in the way that people think of it. And the way I do think that they're going to allow for self-driving cars to be on the road also comes from another story. And that is that Tesla, as in Elon Musk's car company, has released, and boy, I've got so much I want to say about that, because this hero worship for Elon Musk in libertarian circles and him releasing patents is just shit. But Tesla, they released a Tesla command for Android Wear, to where you can control. Now, it's not like you can drive your car with your watch, with your Android Wear watch, but you can lock the doors, as in make sure nobody gets out. You can do all kinds of different controls via your Android Wear to your Tesla Model S, if you happen to have one of those. Now, self-driving cars, are the Tesla Model S on steroids, right? To where, you're not even going to drive it. It's totally, it's a vehicle that I don't know that all self-driving cars are going to be electric, but the bottom line is that a lot of the software is getting implemented into these things because it all comes from where? Android. And so if they do allow self-driving cars on the road, and this is my whole point, and I get emails from people saying that's ridiculous that you don't want computers in cars. What level of control do you want of your vehicle? Or should I say, what level of control do you want to hand over to anybody with a Bluetooth or a Wi-Fi direct connection nearby you, like a police officer, an FBI agent, or whatever government can just control your car, maybe even lock you inside of it? Oh, but that's so cool. I can lock my doors with my watch. Who else can? Moving on. Our main topic. What I want to talk about, I'm going to talk about some blockchain technology, and this part of this will bleed into our Tech Roulette segment. What I want to talk to you about is this mass desire by a lot of, in particular, the Bitcoin 2.0 technologies. Now, a short list of Bitcoin 2.0 technologies: BLACKCOIN, NXT, BitShares, Ethereum, Counterparty, Doge Party. I'm not even going to talk about Doge Party. Those are Bitcoin 2.0 technologies. The purpose of Bitcoin 2.0 technologies is, by and large, with a degree of variance, is to blockchainize business, or maybe even blockchainize everything, and put everything on a blockchain. In fact, some people, and I appreciate Dan Larimer's attitude of BitShares, says we are going to eliminate governments and it's going to get replaced by blockchain technology, by BitShares. And I want to talk about this. I want to talk, Ethereum. Now, look, well, all right, I'll talk about Ethereum more later. Okay, but Ethereum is one where people have said, "Yep, we want to really re-engineer society. We want to make shit, whatever." All these systems, okay, are relying upon, and not just Bitcoin 2.0 technologies, but even Bitcoin 1.0 technologies. Like, let's take a website like the Silk Road. All of these things run off of one critical assumption. That is that they're trustless, but since they're trustless, that means that there's a reputation layer. And so I want to talk about reputation and digitizing reputation, as in putting reputation on the internet, into blockchains, whatever. Reputation, there's an old saying that respect is what separates man from the animals. How much you want to believe that, that's up to you. Okay, respect's currency is reputation. At least that's one of the currencies of respect. Reputation can really be everything. It can make or break a person. Some people call that personal capital. It can make or break a business very easily. It can make or break a product. It can make or break a book. And I want you to consider that with the idea of basing everything on reputation, I want you to consider how easily can you bullshit reputation, good or bad. I mentioned a couple weeks ago how a company, or how Yelp was saying that Google was favoring its products within search. Okay. Now keep this in mind. These Bitcoin 2.0 technologies are very much, algorithms. Okay. I mean, they're out in the open. They take everything. They're not necessarily filtering stuff out, but to some degree, there are algorithms in this. Okay. Because these Bitcoin 2.0 technologies, not all of them, the main ones seem to be Ethereum and BitShares that are doing this, have an ID system built into them. And this ID system acts as your reputation. How reputable are you within the blockchain? And my concern is that those algorithms, these ID systems, these algorithms, to say that they can't be cracked is crazy. Especially when you're dealing with systems, be it proof of work or proof of stake or whatever. Especially when those we know can, they have various ways of, be it coinage or 51% attack or whatever, to rely on those systems as being the way within which to decide whether you're going to deal with someone, I think is very dangerous. Let's back up a little bit. Let's take an example like Amazon. How important is that 5-star rating on Amazon to what you buy? I would assume it's very important. But then my next question to you is how many of those ratings and reviews are bullshit? How hard or let's say you're on Google Maps and you're looking for a restaurant nearby, and this actually happened. How much does it change your mind? The 5-star rating, the amount of stars that a restaurant gets when you're traveling through a town. That's pretty important. You're on the go, you're on the run, or, you're making a very important decision. And so you want to look into other people's decisions. But then I ask you, how hard is it for another business to just smear the shit out of the business across the street without them maybe even knowing and looking? How hard is it to, think of things like SEO. SEO in and of itself is hacking the algorithms. And it could get to the point, and this is Google's biggest fight, they keep fighting it. It can get to the point with SEO to where something that is completely unrelated to what you're searching for appears. I want you to question these reputation systems and entrusting blockchains and algorithms with every aspect of your life. And you say to yourself, well, I'm not going to let it do that. That's not what it's about. Really? You sure? Every Bitcoin wallet I see coming out has merchant systems built into it. Those merchant systems, if not now, sooner or later, are going to run on a reputation. And I guarantee you're going to pay attention to that. And if you are relying on human beings to be completely honest about these things, then I applaud your faith in humanity. But I think that's pretty short-sighted. You can say it's not a part of your life, but as people push more and more and more for everything to be digitized and blockchainized, voting systems, whatever, the more I think something that may not be so healthy creeps in on society. We'll talk about this more in just a second. This is Sovryn Tech.
Are you searching for your soulmate? Someone you can trust, who will never betray you? Or cooperate with the NSA? Stop searching. With ezDNS, you found a keeper. ezDNS does it all. Domain names, web hosting, and managed WordPress hosting. ezDNS stands up for your internet freedom, and with servers in Canada, they do not cooperate with the NSA. Go to ezDNS.com. You'll love their services or get a full refund. They guarantee it. And they accept Bitcoin. That's ezDNS.com. Hello, Mr.
Sovryn. Brian Sovryn. And yours?
Natalia. Care to play a game of roulette?
I'd love to.
Number and color?
69. Black.
As you wish. Tech Roulette.
It is time for Tech Roulette, where I cover the stories that you want me to cover, that you send in via the email address sovereigntech@riseup.net, via BitMessage, via RetroShare, via Twitter, you name it. And there's a story I want to get to that I love. I'm going to guess I'm not going to be able to get to it though. And it's about bacteria that live off of electrons, that eat electrons. I think it is an incredibly exciting, and I want to talk about the ramifications of that because it leads into something I've talked about in previous Tech Roulettes, which is biological machines, grown machines. But I may not get to that now because the main thing that everybody wanted me to talk about this week is Ethereum. And I have my Ethereum shirt on right now. I am, woo, let's do this. Because just a couple days ago, as of this recording, Ethereum went on sale. Well, not really. You could essentially buy into a rain check for when Ethereum finally comes out. Now, let me start this off with, and yes, there's going to end up being a but. Let me start this off with the fact that there are people involved in Ethereum that I have the utmost respect for. In the founders group, in the development teams, that I genuinely love, like to consider friends. I like to think of them as comrades. They're people that are also working towards liberty. Okay? And I love it. I love these guys. I love these people. So that said, let's not take anything I talk about here personal. Let's talk about the work, not the people. We're going to talk about the work. And there's a difference when you talk about things. What's the old saying? Look, it's business. Okay. We're going to talk business. We're not talking about the people. We're not insulting the people. We're talking about the business. So Ethereum comes out, makes a few $1 million inside of like 48 hours. It actually, from what I understand, blew away MadeSafe's crowdfund sale, which is interesting. And people just seem very excited. Twitter is just loaded with so many people being very, very happy about it. I'm honored to be in the Skype channel for the general discussion of Ethereum, and everybody there, of course, was very excited about what was happening. It's really been quite the thing. There's been some coverage. I think TechCrunch did a story about Ethereum. There's been it's been quite a light. Everything has been talking about Ethereum, and by and large, it all seems to be pretty good. But what I want to bring up is that within the contract, and there's, believe me, this is not all I want to talk about. There is a lot that we're going to cover here. Within the contract for Ethereum, or not the contract, but explaining what exactly is going on here with the crowd sale. Okay. And with the crowd sale right now, it's something that's going for about a month and a half, I think 45 days or something along those lines. And for the first 2 weeks, if you spend 1 Bitcoin, you'll get 2,000 Ether. Now, you don't actually get any Ether until Ethereum actually comes out. So you're taking a risk right there, because you're not really getting anything. I mean, even with the MadeSafe crowd sale, you got MadeSafe coins. Now, you didn't get Safe coins, which is the main currency that's going to be within Project Safe, but you did get MadeSafe coins. You got some degree of a token that says that you own this. As far as I understand with Ethereum, you're not necessarily getting much of anything. Okay. And you could trade MadeSafe coins. I don't know that you can trade anything that has to do with Ether right now. And Ether, of course, is the currency. It is the backbone of Ethereum. So, but let's take a look at what exactly some of the legalese, and that's exactly what this is legalese within, this is what happens when you buy Ether, when you pre-buy Ether. And this is section 19.9, risk that Ethereum platform may never be completed or released. Purchaser understands that while the Ethereum team will make reasonable efforts to complete the Ethereum software, it is possible that an official, completed version of the Ethereum platform may not be released, and there may never be an operational Ethereum platform. Now, that's all fine and dandy. I understand that you have to do CYA. You have to cover your ass legally, because who knows? I mean, something crazy could, a plague could come out in Toronto or whatever, and for some reason, nobody could finish Ethereum. It's possible. Okay. So I understand the need for that. But let me tell you where the problem therein lies with Ethereum. Now, to be clear, if you don't know what Ethereum is a new blockchain technology. It is, like we mentioned in the last segment, it is Bitcoin 2.0. And it is, as far as I understand it, and the way it's been billed to me. Now, maybe everything's totally changed in the past month with Ethereum. Maybe that's a possibility. Okay, but I am running off of the information that I have been collecting since January of 2014. And that is that Ethereum is literally the attempt to blockchainize everything. Keep in mind what we were just talking about with reputation and cracking. I'm going to read from somebody who actually put a lot of my thoughts into really beautiful words. I'm going to read an article here. It's by Mark Vander Chies. I might have said that. It's the Vancouver weblog. This is a guy, I think he's hanging out in China right now. Good for him. And here we go. This is from 24th of July, 2014. And a lot of this stuff is exactly the things I was thinking as soon as I saw the pre-sale just kind of come out of nowhere. And it really did come out of nowhere. There was, well, all right, I'll read on. We'll talk about it. As regular readers know, I am passionate about anything related to Bitcoin, especially applications that use the blockchain for more than just monetary transactions. One company that I've been following since their launch in January is Ethereum, a platform and programming language for applications built on top of a new distributed ledger, read blockchain. Business Insider named them the most hyped digital currency since Bitcoin, and I think that is a correct title. After Ethereum was introduced to the world in January at the Miami Bitcoin conference, its 21-year-old genius founder, Vitalik Buterin, became, and he is a genius, great guy, became an instant rock star in the Bitcoin world. People even started comparing him to Bitcoin inventor Satoshi Nakamoto. Vitalik announced at that time that Ethereum would launch its crowd sale IPO on February 1st, 2014, and I had planned to buy some Ether during that time. However, right before the IPO should take place, the sale was canceled, and since then there have not been a lot of official announcements. Because of how they handled their potential investors, I decided not to put any money into Ethereum if they would try to do their IPO again. When you can't even handle a simple crowd sale well, I wonder if you are mature enough to run an altcoin platform that should change the way we do business. Well, this week, Ethereum finally launched its funding, this time without any advance notice. At least I did not get the message, and I also don't think Vitalik mentioned it at the Chicago conference last weekend. And there just had the North American Bitcoin conference, I think it was, in Chicago just the past weekend. And I've asked a couple people that attended that conference, and they also said, no, we never heard anything about this crowd sale. Literally came out of nowhere. Okay, moving on. But that did not matter because the IPO was a huge success. After 2 days, they already raised almost 7,000 Bitcoins, which is about US $4.8 million at current prices. To me, that was a surprise. I knew the company was hyped, but I had not expected such a major hype. Why? Simply because the company is still purely a PowerPoint and a couple of geeks talking at conferences about their ideas. Very good ideas, I have to say, but there is no product yet, and there won't be a product until at least 6 months later. Now, some people have said, well, there's Proof of Concept 5, which also came out on the same day. What can you do with Proof of Concept 5? Well, nothing. Then how is that a released product? If I can, download Yosemite Beta for OS X and use it, that's a released product. I can't do anything with POC 5. Moving on. But that's not all. Because they are selling Ether, their currency, without announcing how many Ether they will be selling in total, it's an open-ended crowd sale. That means you have no clue what percentage of the company you will buy, or, in venture capital language, you invest without knowing the valuation of the company. This is one of the biggest points that this guy was making, and it was exactly what I felt the day that I read about and understood and saw the Ether crowd sale. No investor in their right mind would put their money down on something if they didn't know just how much stock they were buying. And I think Dan Larimer is absolutely right when he calls a lot of these cryptocurrencies, they're more like shares in a company than they are actual currency. I think that's an accurate assessment. Nobody does that. Look, honestly, I'm poor. Okay. I haven't always been that way in my life. I used to be very much into the investing world. I know I wouldn't drop a Satoshi on a company where I didn't have a fucking clue just how much of that company I was buying. No way would I do that. And then to even not even hold anything in my hand. That's financial suicide to do that. And they raised 7,000 Bitcoins. Hell, it's fucking Saturday. I don't know how much it is now. What is it, double that? In fact, I wonder, the Bitcoin price finally dropped below 600. Is that because everybody's selling off and going to Ethereum? Where am I? What universe do I exist in where people put their money down on that? Look, this isn't a risk. This is the thing. I get putting money down on something that's never existed before, and that can't, and if it's never existed before, you probably don't have it ready to go, like MadeSafe, right? There's nothing quite like MadeSafe out there, not even Freenet. There's nothing like MadeSafe out there. So you put your money down, at least you got some tokens with that, but you put your money down and you say, look, nothing like this, but I'm going to risk it. That makes sense. But this is the thing. There's already things that exist that are like Ethereum out there that you could be putting your money down and you'd actually have the value, and you could go to BTER and you could actually trade it. BLACKCOIN, NXT, Hell, BitShares is BTSX is out there. Please understand that if you like Ethereum, that's okay. Good for you. It is up to you what you do with your money. I am giving you the experience of somebody who invested for a good chunk of his life. And I'm telling you that nobody in their right mind would do this. Especially when there's already things out there where you know the valuation. Like NXT, its valuation is, it's the third most valuable cryptocurrency out there. Why the fuck would you not invest in that, yet invest in something that doesn't even exist? And it's not that it just doesn't even exist. And I love how the guy says, look, it's just a couple geniuses in a PowerPoint. It's not just that. You email me and you tell me what the proof is that this is going to use. Is it going to use proof of work? Nope. Is it going to use proof of stake? Maybe. Is it going to use something completely different? Sure. But then how is that proven and tried that you're willing to put down 7,000 Bitcoins? What the hell is wrong with you people? Moving on. Yeah.
It's up to 7,674 Bitcoins.
674. Okay, so about 8,000 Bitcoins now. I'm glad things have kind of slowed down. Maybe people thought better of it. Lovely and hyper-intelligent Dr. Stephanie Murphy kindly giving me that information. And so we'll move on. And what do you get for that? Mo Levine put it well in a podcast interview today, in which he called Ether casino chips that can only be used in one casino. It may be a huge casino eventually, or maybe there will never be a casino. Or they will just keep printing new chips for new users, diluting the value of the current chips. And that's the thing. They're not telling you how much Ether there's actually going to be. They're just saying, just fucking unlimited. Moving on. To make matters worse, anybody can copy Ethereum's source code. It's open source, so anybody can see it and start a copy of Ethereum that works exactly the same. And that's already being done. Last night, Ethereum, yes, that's just a one-letter difference, was announced, and this platform will give its coins away for free based on how many Bitcoins you own. So that sounds like maybe they're kind of doing a proof of stake there. USD 4.8 million is a lot of money, a lot more money than the company needs to build its product. They are a low-cost operation, basically just a bunch of young but very smart developers who all get Ether as well for their efforts. If I remember correctly, 9.9% of all Ether is set aside for the founders. Of course, that could have totally changed. As a rational investor, I would never put money into such a venture. As a rational investor, I would never put money into such a venture. But it seems most Ethereum investors are not rational. Ethereum uses an interesting incentive to get people to buy quickly because after 14 days, the price of Ether will go up. That means in 14 days during this pre-sale, the price for one Bitcoin, you'll probably get less. You get 2,000 now Ether, you'll end up getting less than that. This may be part of the reason why people want to put money in as soon as possible. On social media, people are arguing that they just invest to help the team, and that may be true. However, I believe 4.8 million is a lot of money to give away to help a young team to build a good product, even in the Bitcoin world. To be fair, the Ethereum team did nothing wrong. Well, they botched their first IPO and are terrible in investor communications, and they are very clear about the fact of what they offer. It's not a pump and dump. They mention it's not a regular investment. You just get coins that do not even exist yet. Maybe Ether will become very valuable, or maybe it will never have any value. To me, that's gambling. And that's fine. But you won't see me put any money into Ethereum until after they launch their coins and until they get some traction. The Bitcoin world changes so fast that by then another competitor may have emerged that is better or faster. Congrats to the team for raising so much money so easily. Now the pressure is on them to deliver on the expectations they created. And I'm going to make this real clear. I think I'm projecting quite a bit of anger here. I am not mad at the Ethereum team at all. I am mad at the seemingly amateurish attitude of the investors. But here's the kicker. What if it's not amateurish attitude? What if it's a lot of people putting a lot of capital in there and they know that they can take control of this platform and they wouldn't be able to do it with any of the others? And the reason I say that, okay, is because I think Dan Larimer is a person who genuinely wants the financial system to change. He hates the banks. He hates the government. I might be putting, that might be a strong word for him, okay, but he is an anarchist. Or maybe he's not, whatever. He believes in the Ludwig von Mises Institute, okay? Take that however you want to take it. The bottom line, he says he doesn't want governments anymore, so that makes him an anarchist in my book, whether he wants to use that term or not, okay? So you're probably not going to buy him off. You've got, let's see, NXT. NXT is really very much the Wild West of any of these Bitcoin 2.0 technologies, because everything is already possible, as in you can do it in the software right the fuck now. And also that, you know, I mean, they're like, there's no figureheads and everybody's just, the entire team is so decentralized. They're just letting whatever happen. Some people may say that that's a bad thing. I don't think so. I think it's a great thing that that's the attitude that they have, is just this extreme decentralization to where anybody can get in on that. Now, somebody's going to talk to me about the 21 founders or whatever. That's a whole other conversation. I will gladly answer questions about NXT maybe I'll save it for the next episode. I'll do it during important email or something. Okay. Some people have asked me about proof of stake as well. I'll answer all that. I'm actually going to be doing a special about the different proofs. Now, of course, in that special, I'd love to talk about what proof Ethereum's using, but I don't fucking know. Nobody knows. Vitalik doesn't know. And you're laying down your money on that? It's insulting that the crypto community runs so much on hype instead of what's the goods, what's right in front of them. Please, I'm not making a huge case for NXT. I'm making a case. The case could go for BLACKCOIN. The case could even go for BitShares now. Apparently, there was a company in China. There was an announcement that they would become the very first BitShare X platform. This shit exists and it's real, and nobody's bothering with it. Nobody's talking about it. Everybody's just like, oh my god, Ethereum. If the cryptocurrency community is a bunch of people that just follow the line, that just toe the line, then fuck it. I'll go somewhere where people think critically. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going to go. It's just, producer just asked, where am I going to go? I don't have a fucking idea. So, you know, but let me switch this up, is that so many of these things, and in fact, really even the entire idea of smart contracts scares the shit out of me. Because I hear it from a lot of people, including anarchists, that want all of these systems to replace the government. Now, while I appreciate the attitude in wanting these things to eliminate the need for control structures, I am terrified of replacing the gun with the code. And this Ethereum presale says to me that people are just lining up for it. They're just dying to, yes, please, I want a contract. Well, that's something that kills me about libertarians. When they call love a contract, and boy, the fuck do they do. All the time. And every time I hear that, all I want to say is, suck my dick. There's a contract. That's insane. Look, we keep trying to find logical answers for all this stuff. Logic. Man, sometimes there ain't logic. Show me the logic behind the drive, other than unless you're going to say genetic determinism. Show me and even that, then you need to explain that one away. Okay. Show me the logic of the drive to where it's like, gee, boy, I just saw this girl walk by. I want to fuck. Stop. Feel things. Stop trying to digitize everything. Stop trying to blockchainize everything. Stop trying to put everything into code. And stop being so eager for it. Look, if the only way we're going to get rid of governments is by putting things onto a blockchain, we suck as a species. There's a great point that if you can't solve the problem without technology, you never solve the problem. That's not true for the medical field, but in other ways. Crazy. I'm going to calm down. I'll be back with more. This is Sovryn Tech.
There's a lot of confusing information out there about Bitcoin mining. Customers have been burned by companies taking their money on pre-orders for Bitcoin mining equipment, only to receive their equipment late and miss out on opportunities to mine Bitcoins. But that doesn't mean Bitcoin mining is impossible. You just have to find an honest company to do business with. If you want to mine Bitcoins and you want to do it now, no pre-orders, no waiting. Look into the Antminer products from Bitmain. Their competitively priced Antminers are in stock and shipped from the US as soon as you pay. You could buy an Antminer today and be mining Bitcoins tomorrow. The Antminer line offers the best mining power per dollar currently available. 20% of the mining power in the Bitcoin network is contributed by Antminers. Not only that, but Bitmain is committed to support. You can get tech support and warranty service over the phone by calling 844-BITMAIN. For commercial accounts, they'll even travel to your data center to install your equipment. Get all the details at bitmaintech.com. That's bitmaintech.com.
You're a lucky man, Mr. Sovryn. Not many win so well at the game of chance.
That's because it's not a game of chance, Natalia. It's a game of choice.
Game of choice.
Woo! Time for game of choice. But real quick, I want to elaborate a little bit on what I meant by the statement that if it's not solved with technology, you didn't really solve it. That is in reference to moral problems. Okay? What I mean by that is that government is a moral issue that people think it's a philosophical issue that people think that it's necessary to have that. And if it takes technology to solve that, you actually didn't solve the human condition. You just put a Band-Aid on it. And that's my concern, is that a lot of these ideas are Band-Aids over far deeper problems that we're so stuck on having contracts for everything that we never actually find the real root of it all. And you always want to strike the root, right? Okay, game of the week. Switching up. I'm going to talk about a game that doesn't exist. Isn't that ironic? And I'm pretty excited about this. Now, it's called Offworld Trading Company, and you go to offworldgame.com, and it's by Soren Johnson. And you can get into this game. There is like a founder's package, much like Galactic Civilizations 3. Now, people will say to me, well, wait a minute, what were you just saying about Ethereum? This doesn't exist. Hold your horses. This is being made by Stardock. Okay. So it's a game that they're developing that will come out. You can buy in early. That is a risk. But does Stardock deliver on the games that they release or not? They deliver. In fact, they always deliver. So, anyway, about the game, it's a real-time strategy game, and I love real-time strategy games. Of course, the one aspect of real-time strategy games that I actually generally kind of hate is that most of the time you're creating armies with these. Now, there's exceptions to that, but this is one of the exceptions, actually, because this is an entire game where you take over things through economic means. It is what they call an economic RTS. Now, how that differentiates it so much from SimCity, I'm not sure. Or like one of the original, maybe what one would call an economic RTS, maybe it wouldn't be an RTS, would be Mule, which I think I've talked about on this show before. Huge fan of that game. But this looks really exciting, and you can play the alpha. When you buy in, or you can play the prototype, and you can actually do a little bit of multiplayer. So as in, unlike POC 5, you can actually do something with it. And I love the look of it. I think it has fantastic potential, and it will be on Steam. This is not something, actually, I recently heard that Stardock actually made the comment that this was sent to me by a listener, actually, via that wonderful bit message, where he told me that Stardock said that the present generation of consoles are for the very first time intriguing to putting games of this scale, of games of like Stardock games scale onto those platforms. So there's a chance that Offworld Trading Company could end up, could end up being on the PlayStation 4 or on the Xbox One. Pretty good bet it won't be on the Wii U, but at the very least, the PlayStation 4. I think that's where a lot of people are looking and going, ooh, this looks exciting. Because the PlayStation 4, is out there and it's pretty open in what it does. And it's actually decently easy to kind of write for and to do creative things with it, because the PlayStation 4, as I still understand it, has BSD as its backbone. So BSD is in the OS. So I think that's pretty exciting thing to contemplate. But of course, it'll be out for PC, no question about it. And PC obviously being the ultimate platform for video games. And it probably won't be out till next year, but it looks phenomenal. And they're not doing a crowd sale. This is just, here, you can pay in to be in the beta and you get a bunch of stuff for it, and you do get a bunch of stuff. And I think it's really slick. So check out Offworld Trading Company at offworldgame.com. And I'll be back with more. See, I calmed down just fine. Hopefully nothing else will get me that riled up. This is Sovryn Tech.
Time now for 90 Seconds on Sex with Dr. Paul.
You'd think that having intercourse in the shower would be as easy as shampooing your hair. Not so. While taking showers with a lover can be fun and incredibly sexy, having intercourse in the shower is often a different matter. The first issue to be concerned about is slipping. So if you're going to have intercourse in the shower, make sure you've got a non-slip shower mat or put down some cute gripper fishies. Another thing to consider is installing grab bars in the shower. A browser search for shower grab bars will show that they're easy to get, but reviewers usually don't rate them for their sexual worthiness. Now, even though water is wet, it washes away natural lubrication, so you might want to keep a bottle of sex lube in the shower. And while silicone and some oil-based lubes can be great for having sex in water because they don't wash off, one little drop on the shower floor can make it treacherous. So if you're using these kinds of lubes, be sure to read the warning label, and keep in mind that some couples apply these lubes before they get into water. As for what position to use, some couples find that rear entry intercourse with a woman leaning forward can be the most practical position for shower sex. Or you might consider doing what a lot of couples do. Enjoy showering together before or after you have intercourse somewhere else, like on a bed or a couch in the living room.
For more, visit 90secondsonsex.com.
You are quite the man, Mr. Sovryn. Are you busy tonight?
Natalia, if you'll excuse me, I just received a very important email.
Later then, Mr. Sovryn. Important email.
Too bad. I could have gotten in the shower with Natalia and done all of those wonderful things. Maybe later. Anyway. I got a lot of great response. People seem to really enjoy well, at least I think they're clever, and they said they were clever, the intros to each segment. And I'm glad everybody seems to enjoy it. It was a bit of a risk. I didn't know if everybody would think it'd be cool, but everybody really seems to like it. In fact, I half wonder if it's not going to become some degree of a common practice in future podcast productions. Moving on. This is an important email. Of course, you can get in touch with me through RetroShare, BitMessage, the email, sovereigntech@riseup.net, Twitter. You take even, sadly for right now, I'm still on Facebook, and even Google+. There's just plenty of ways to get in touch with me. Or, of course, my personal favorite, Telegram. That's another way that you can get in touch with me. I love Telegram. You go ahead and you can send, you can ask me whatever questions you want. And some people have sent some decently long emails, and that's all right. I probably won't be able to answer all of them at once. And so I kind of break these things up. And also a lot of people ask a similar question. And so I kind of bunch it all together, or and I'll make it quick, or I'll try and find that one, that one email that really put it succinctly. So anyway, I'm going to read from this email here. Do you have any theories on why more people don't use GPG? Of course, GPG, PGP, really in the common parlance, I think those terms are, totally interchangeable. Like people recognize that when you're talking about PGP, that you're more or less talking about, or when you're talking about GPG, that you're more or less talking about PGP, that you're talking about the technology, of course, that Zimmerman came up with, almost 30 years ago. It's free, reliable encryption. I know most people say it's because GPG is not user-friendly, but it seems fairly simple to me. There is a real learning curve for sure. It just seems like it would be more widely used. I've tried to have small key signing parties and help my friends with my key management, or with their key management, but I can't seem to get anyone actually using it. Okay, so let's touch on this. Because I think this is a really important subject. We've talked about email in the past, how to set it up. People have asked about this before, but there's been some interesting recent developments that I think makes it important to talk about it again. The first thing I want to talk about is a new service that is presently in beta. If you use it on Chrome, it's actually a Chrome extension, or it's an alpha if you use it on Android. And this is going to get released more widely than any of that, but obviously writing in Chrome and Android is a very common thing and a very popular thing to do these days. So, it happens. I mean, Chrome is just this amazing developer platform. I'm not talking about privacy and security when I say that. I'm just talking about ease of use and popularity, etc. Okay, so you have what's called whiteout.io. And again, the link will be in the show notes. It'll be in the appendix area. Okay. And whiteout.io is just this incredibly beautiful, slick. It's in beta, but you can get it. It's not a closed beta or anything. You can jump on it. And it's also the Android app for it is an alpha. Okay. And what it does is it creates a layer. It's a separate app that'll pop up even if you use a Chromebook. So this is also a great option for Chromebooks. And it's actually, I'll explain why it's better than Mailvelope too, which is what I've recommended in the past. Whiteout.io creates just this, it opens up this app and it easily, as soon as you open it up, you can click on, it'll give you some options. It'll say Google, Yahoo, T-Mobile, I think, amazingly. And they say they're going to have Outlook down the line and they're going to have some other ones down the line. So this won't work with GMX yet, or you can because it allows for custom entry, but you're going to need a little more technical knowledge to do that. But if you're using Gmail or Yahoo Mail, this is really simple. You click on Google, you sign in with Google. It'll ask permission, to access your Google account, right? Or with Yahoo, it'd be the same thing. And then you're done. You can import. The nice thing is if you're a more advanced user, you can import your old PGP key or GPG. Like I said, I use those terms interchangeably, unless otherwise stated. And if you import it, it'll give you that, or you can just use the one that they make for you, and they'll give you the fingerprint. It's just very simple, not a whole lot of buttons involved, amazingly more simple than Mailvelope, in my opinion. And it's also superior to Mailvelope in that you can also encrypt the extensions, which Mailvelope can't do. And also, I've had a lot of real issues with Mailvelope where people will use whatever version of GPG that they're using or PGP that they're using, and they'll send to me and I can't open it. It'll say it doesn't recognize it. And that's generally because they're using, whatever, a different scheme of AES or you name it. So, but whiteout.io, none of that is a problem with it. So I agree with the emailer that it's, people will say it's because of lack of ease of use. Well, that is no longer true. And I recommend, now it's in beta, careful. If you want to get people, interested in it, this is the direction to take it in, is to talk to them about whiteout.io. Again, it's a simple extension that gets installed on Chrome. Pretty much everybody uses Chrome, right? And away you go. Okay. So check out whiteout.io. As far as like how they seem to be doing everything, it all looks pretty good. I'm impressed. It's open source, a lot of good things going on with it. I was, again, just completely impressed. And in fact, they're not just open source. They're trying to use as much code that's already written as possible. The importance of using code that's already written is that it's already been checked. It's already been, combed through by security professionals and not so professionals. Okay, so they really are doing this right. The other point I want to bring up about as far as ease of use is Proton Mail, protonmail.ch. Okay, again, link in the show notes. Proton Mail I featured in the past for, I believe, either Website of the Week or Software of the Week. Those can often get confused. And this, they started an Indiegogo, and I talked about it a couple of weeks ago, how PayPal froze their account or whatever. That's maybe how scared people are of this being implemented. Proton Mail is fantastic. It's a Swiss-based company. They are doing encryption as good as it gets. Now, you can't, it's not like whiteout.io where you can just use the email address you already have. You have to create a new email address. But, which, by the way, whiteout.io will be offering their own email addresses in the future, much like Proton Mail does. But this is really well done. And actually, the Kickstarter, I think they've raised almost $500,000. And this is money going to, hey, again, you can already use Proton Mail. I've been using it for over a month. It already exists. So when they say, hey, we're going to do a crowdfund. Okay, yeah, I've used your shit. It works. Cool. I'll crowdfund you. Right? You got a product. You got something in your hand that you can kind of vouch for. So Proton Mail is really good. And they are going to come out with a paid service for it, which is Proton Mail Plus. And with this, you will get, because one of Proton Mail's caveats is that you can only send 1,000 messages, 1,000 emails a month. But with if you get the Proton Mail Plus, which will be coming out, you can actually do unlimited, and you'll get more storage, because when you get the normal account, I got in on them really, really early. So if you want to use Proton Mail, you have to fund the Indiegogo to get ahead in line to get an address anyway. I got in so early, they already had, they weren't doing that. And actually, they had so many requests for new accounts that it crashed their servers, and that's why they felt they could do the Indiegogo campaign. They felt confident in doing that. But I was in ahead of that game. So anyway, yes, I have been messing with it. But protonmail.ch, so you're going to have to fund them if you want to get involved in that. But again, they only allow for 100 megabytes of email storage right now. But with the Proton Mail Plus, I think you'll get like a gig, which is plenty for probably 99% of the population. In fact, if you're doing more than a gig of email, if you're holding on to that much email and you're not deleting it and you're saving it, you really should be looking at offline implementations of storing your email. I would not be trusting, if email was that important to me, I wouldn't leave it online for shit. Really. So anyway, you can look into Proton Mail. You can fund their Indiegogo if you want. I think it still might have a couple days left. I don't know. But also, this whiteout.io is fantastic. The other thing I want to mention, and this is kind of a unique twist on GPG, is Fadely. This is FADE.li, and Fadely is Snapchat for email. Okay. And this is kind of a different story, but this makes kind of encrypted communications fun. Okay. And what it is that you can put a Chrome extension on there, and this will work within Gmail, or any email you ever send, you can just, at the end of it, like say you're going to send it to sovereigntech@riseup.net. You could type in sovereigntech@riseup.net and then type in .fade.li, and it'll do this. And what it actually does is it takes a picture of the email that you're sending, and it sends that picture, and then it deletes it from the email. Now, you don't have control of how long it stays there, but if you know how Snapchat works, you get what I'm saying. Okay, to where the picture will just instantly disappear. Now, the problem with this, okay, is that they're not very explicit in how this all works. They say it's encrypted with AES. They don't really tell you what version of all that is, what their implementation is. They don't tell you where it gets encrypted, whether or not it gets encrypted in the browser client side, or if it gets encrypted at the server. But judging by the fact that you can do this by just typing fade.li at the end of any email address, tells me that it's getting done, the encryption's done at their server, so they can see what you sent. Okay. And so you're trusting them, and they say, yeah, we deleted it after, once it's deleted from the other person's email, we delete it. You're trusting them, and that's up to you to trust them. This is not something, if I was a drug dealer, this is not something that I would trust with a drug deal at all. Okay. So Fadely's interesting. It might be just something fun you want to try with messaging, but it is not serious encryption. However, ProtonMail and Whiteout.io are both very serious, and Whiteout.io is so simple if you want to keep the email address you have right now. If you're okay with getting a new email address, I recommend looking into ProtonMail. Okay, but if you're looking for, just to get your Google address, your Gmail address or your Yahoo mail address, and hopefully soon your Outlook address, then go to whiteout.io. Again, it is in beta. Keep that in mind. But this will also allow for what I consider a rarity, and that is easy implementation. Because, boy, you think it's hard to set up PGP on a computer. Try setting it up on an Android device or wherever else. I mean, there's apps that allow for that, but it's not the most simple trick. But whiteout.io is a very simple trick. I've used it on my Android phone. It works great. And again, allows for extensions, allows for all that great stuff. It's really cool. So do look into that. The next question that I have here. So I guess really the answer is why isn't it more popular? Well, that really is it. It's just that it is for the average person that wants to do click and done. That kind of idea did not exist until right now with whiteout.io. And the encryption obviously is happening client side with that. So going on now, the next question was, I abandoned Facebook back in school and was running a diaspora hub for my friends at school. So I'm guessing this might be a younger listener, and that's great. Not that age matters to me by any stretch. After a while, I lost steam on maintaining it, but it seemed like a really good way and was running a diaspora hub. Right. Okay. So he was running diaspora, but it seemed like a really good way to decentralize social networks while keeping control of your own data. It has been years since I checked out the project, but it seemed promising. You seem to be skeptical of the diaspora project. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what promising networks are on the horizon. In my opinion, IRC is an underused tool. And you hit it, emailer. You actually hit the nail on the head. IRC is really where I wish everything would go. In fact, there is an IRC channel for Sovryn Tech. It is the Sovryn Balnea. I may not be in there often, but I would love to hear from you that people wish to participate more. Maybe we could even set up live chats. If you are interested in that, please email me. Please let me know. And I would love to set up live chats, or this could be an interesting way to do really anonymous live, I'll say live shows, but it'll probably get released as a podcast, to where we could do a Q&A using IRC. I think that'd be fantastic. So IRC is really the direction I think it's going to go. I think in general, now my problem with diaspora, I don't really have a problem with diaspora. I agree. I think it's a great implementation of social networking, and I may even find it slightly conspiratorial that one of its founders was mysteriously died. But moving on, diaspora is a great way to do it, and it's interesting because they recognized, and this is a huge point. Diaspora recognized with the pod system, and so you have pods, like you said, you had a pod where your friends were all a part of it. They recognized that humans don't necessarily, want or maybe weren't meant to interact in such mass scale as things like Google Plus and Facebook and maybe even Twitter allow for. And so they set things up as pods for separate groups. Okay. They tribalized the internet. And when I say tribal, I don't mean shamanism. Big difference. They said, okay, the internet actually wants to work within small groups. And so I think diaspora actually leads into what will be the real social network. And I've talked about this before, but it doesn't hurt to mention it again. I have new listeners all the time, and I'm so glad to have you. I think that BBS's, bulletin board systems, I think that localized communication networks are going to be the wave of the future. I think sooner or later, people are just going to get sick of using these big services. I think it's already happening. I think a lot of people, and I think the big companies know it. Okay. Facebook, for some reason, has yet to get rid of groups because they know that people want to have these insular areas of interest. You have also Facebook splitting up into multiple apps. I think people, whether it's conscious or unconscious, they don't want this thing that does everything for them. And I think it's more unconscious that they realize that it's just too much for them. Okay. Or they have various fears or whichever. And so I think naturally people are going to start to go more towards this decentralized communications networks. I think it's going to happen over time. Now, I mean, yeah, there's going to be plenty of people that will stick with the big stuff or whichever. But I think as people get more and more connected, they're still going to want to get connected in very decentralized ways. I think that's going to be happening. So something that becomes like a BBS will really be the future. Because a lot of times, I mean, this is, in my opinion, this is absolutely true. Then it's not just my opinion. It's a lot of people's opinion that the reason people use Facebook is because they're looking for somebody to fuck. And in fact, I think statistically it's true because you find out, a lot of divorces. In fact, I just saw a statistic the other day. Not the statistics can't be bullshitted either. Okay. Don't always trust statistics, but, I think this one's probably pretty clear because you could look it up yourself. You don't have to question people about it, but in divorce papers, Facebook is consistently cited as a problem for the divorce. It's because, and why are they getting divorced? It's because they found somebody else to fuck. Now, did they find somebody, in the Yucatan to go fuck and they live in Iowa? No, that's probably not true. They probably just found somebody else in Iowa that they didn't even know was there because they were following, say, like the local newspaper page or the local mayor's page, and they realized they had so much in common. And then, one day, oh, honey, I'm going to be late for work. Or I'll be late at work. I'll be home in a couple hours. And they go off to dinner with, someone else. So I think that's what's going to happen is people are just going to realize so what I think can do this doesn't really exist yet. Other than RetroShare. RetroShare could become that to where you have these localized social groups. In fact, entire localized internets. But, no, the product that I'm looking for doesn't exist yet. The thing that's going to really replace Facebook. And that's a shame. I really wish RetroShare would do it because talk about, easy implementation. It's pretty easy, even though I guess it's easy to set up, but then to really use it, it does take a little bit of a learning curve on that one. So maybe that's the failure, just like GPG, right? Hopefully I've inspired somebody to invent the next social network. If those are even good things. I'll be back with more. This is Sovryn Tech.
Hey everybody, it's Stephanie. I am the Sovryn Tech producer, but did you know I am also a voiceover artist? Yes, it's true. I make audiobooks, commercials for your business. I narrate explainer videos. Pretty much any audio project that you can think of, I'm probably willing to work on it, or I have worked on it in the past. And if you want to hear some samples of my previous work, or you want to find out a little bit more about what I do, then I encourage you to check out my voiceover website, which is smvoice.info, smvoice.info. Now back to Sovryn Tech.
Agent Sovryn, go to this webpage and follow. What kind of webpage is this? Is that Natalia? I better go to the
Website of the Week.
It is time for Website of the Week, where I cover a website that, I find interesting, something useful, something terrible on the internet. And the importance of this website won't come up until later in the show, but I want to share it with you anyway. By the way, did you know, I don't know if I have a lot of new listeners, like I said. I don't know if they realize this, but I work without a net. I run the show like it is a live show. And so I have hard breaks that I have to deal with. I don't really edit ever. And I have no notes in front of me other than the show notes that actually you read or I have the email from the emailer, that asks something. I do all of this off the top of my head. And sometimes I can be wrong about things, and I'll always admit when that is. Fortunately, it's not often at all. But just in case you were wondering, I mean, that's how I work. And I do the same thing when I do Free Talk Live or when I do Sex and Science Hour. I work completely without notes. I like to run off the top of my head because I think it's important to not rely on having Google connected to my head or Wikipedia connected to my head. I want to actually know things. I want to look into them for myself, and I certainly don't want to run off of what other people tell me. And speaking of not running off of what other people tell you, I want you to check out the Linguistics Research Center from the University of Texas at Austin. You weren't expecting that at all unless you read the show notes. And I won't give you the website. You know, there's a goo.gl link in the show notes that you can click on. It's kind of a longer, URL. So, but what this is, what the Linguistics Research Center is, it's a an institution within the University of Texas that specializes in Indo-European languages. Now, what's Indo-European languages? Indo-European languages are Akkadian, Hebrew, Sumerian, all those really ancient languages that all the really interesting writings seem to be written in, or, maybe what some would say are the original languages of planet Earth that were developed. And so it's really fascinating. And not only do you get to read at the LRC, you get to read some of these original texts with some great translation. But they teach you there how to speak some of these languages or how to read some of these languages. And I think this is actually pretty important. I think some people will be like, what the fuck? This is a tech show. Why the hell are you talking about this? No, I think this is a big deal. I think that learning these languages, getting to know these original languages, especially, I have a lot of listeners that are actually very religious. In fact, I know at least of a few listeners that are Christian, that would identify as Christian. And I think it's important to know, if you have such a thing that you believe so strongly in, okay, I think it's important that you know really about it. Like, here's a great example of the importance of learning if these things are important to you. And this isn't just for Christians. Anybody can want to learn this stuff, because I think a lot of history that we have written down that gets translated from these ancient languages actually happened. It just may not be attributed to a God, perhaps, or maybe you do attribute it to God, but then do you really want to know his nature or her nature? And the importance of knowing these things, I want to give you a great example of why I think it's important to know these languages, is that punctuation's kind of a new thing. And I think it's important to realize that punctuation's such a new thing, because here's a great example. You have in the New Testament, you have a verse that says, the verse is Luke, it's from Luke 23, I think, verse 43. And it goes something along the line of, I tell you the truth, today you will be with me in paradise. Okay, or some people would translate it as heaven instead of paradise. Here's the problem with that verse. The comma. It's, I tell you the truth, comma, today you will be with me in paradise. What happens, since, again, there's no punctuation in the original Koine Greek, okay? What happens when you move that comma to, instead of in front of today, you put it behind the word today? Suddenly it says, I tell you the truth today, you will be with me in paradise. There's a huge difference there. The difference is that one is, I tell you the truth, today you'll be with me in paradise. That means that today, this day, when you're dying, thief on the cross, you're going to be with me in heaven today. The other way is, I tell you the truth today, as in, I'm telling you right now, you will be with me in paradise. Not that you'll be in paradise with him right now, but that he's just telling you right now. Do you see the problem there? That's why you got to look into this stuff. So go to the Linguistics Research Center, and if you're interested in history and things like that, this is a great resource to really learn the language.
Hey, look! Got an energy spike. Hold on! Launch. Bombing the Narn back to the Stone Age wasn't enough for you?
Then we heard it. The sound of something terrible being born.
This is madness. Station 3 to Commander Ivanova.
Centauri have launched a full-scale assault.
Time is coming on! It's our turn now!
2 million tons of spinning metal, all alone in the night. A world where empires rise and fall, where dreams are born and die, where war and hatred are challenged by love and faith. In the third age of mankind, an age plagued by an evil empire that seeks to destroy humanity. It is our last, best hope for peace, for victory, for freedom. It is Babylon 5.
Babylon 5 is available for download on your favorite torrent site. See it now to experience the greatest show in television history. Babylon 5. Who knew you could ride a bike so well?
I don't know if I can get us away from that helicopter. Don't you have a gun?
Oh, there's never a need for lethal force. I'll handle this.
How did you do that?
We'll be fine. A quick hack solves everything.
Hacksec.
It is time for Hacksec, where we talk about hackers and security. And oh boy, this week actually it's a story that got sent to me by a good friend that he wanted me to talk about. And I think this is a really important topic that has maybe a lot of mystery, a lot of confusion around it. And the topic is the fact that, how does the NSA, like the NSA doesn't have 10 million people working for it. How exactly does it find all of these vulnerabilities that they exploit, all these 0 days and whatever else, so well? And in fact, really, and I think a lot of people ask this question, and it's a fair one to ask, if there isn't room for growth, I don't think you get a really great pay raise every year at the NSA when you're contracted and working for them. As a security professional, I'll use that word. The incentives don't seem great enough to want to go through all that code to make it happen. Well, that's because the NSA aren't generally the ones that go looking for all of these security holes and vulnerabilities in software. There's companies that do it. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. So it's good. I want to talk about it. But before I get now, two of the companies that I can mention to you are Exodus Intelligence and Vupen Security. Okay. They are the two, probably the biggest names that do this sort of thing. Now, what the friend shared with me was a rant that was put on GitHub. Okay. Now, when someone's on GitHub, usually an everyday person generally isn't just on GitHub. Usually it's a developer of some kind or some kind of coder, something along those lines. I'm on GitHub. There's lots of people on GitHub, no doubt about it. Okay. But usually they have some kind of software skill and that's why they're there. And I think that's what makes this kind of disconcerting, this rant that I'm going to read to you. I don't think people understand what vulnerability sellers really do. Like Exodus and Vupen, they invest thousands of man and computer hours into finding bugs which people are willing to pay lots of money for. As a business, they want to keep their customer base happy, which means allowing their customers, yes, presumably the NSA, FBI, etc., to use their exploits rather than selling them to Tails OS maintainers. Yes, Tails OS, of course, is the Tor operating system that allows you to anonymously live or access the internet. Yes, it's probably the case that these exploits don't just go to nabbing child pornographers or drug traffickers. They also probably try to catch the next Snowden, which not everyone agrees is the right thing to do. But for what it's worth, I'd still trust the U.S. government, even with all of its faults, far more than the Russians or Chinese. I don't know if I'd share that sentiment with the blogger here, but okay. But let's be honest here. Tails OS maintainers probably couldn't afford the same price that Exodus's customers will happily pay. Even if Exodus were happy to sell it to the Tails folks, that is certainly going to be a loss of money. Boy, if that's not the truth, but then of course that's because the NSA, FBI, CIA, alphabet soup organization, whatever, has endless funds. They can just call up the Federal Reserve, and say, please print us more. Or they can just go up to you and say, you need to pay more taxes. The arguments I'm used to, and of course Tails OS runs pretty much off of donations. Though there was some Navy money a while ago. The arguments I'm used to hearing go something like this. But it's obviously unethical. They should just responsibly report and disclose vulnerabilities they find. But this is a total crap argument. No. The options Exodus has aren't sell to governments or responsibly disclose for little to no fee. The options are sell to governments or go out of business. So maybe someone will say, fine, they should go out of business. Then we will all obviously be safer. But well, it's not really clear that's the case. If Exodus or Vupen or whomever quit, it's not like suddenly the government would stop looking for exploits. And if the U.S. government did, it's not like China or Russia would. And if they did, it's not like criminal organizations would stop. You aren't going to stop vulnerabilities from happening or being sold. Theoretically, it seems like the right choice is to keep that It's to keep the U.S. government snatching up what vulnerabilities it can to keep it in its back pocket for espionage. Not doing so would be a huge blow to U.S. intelligence agencies when every other major government out there is working on the same capabilities. At this point, some folks might say, but that doesn't mean we'd all just be safer if the government just released all the vulnerabilities they knew about to vendors to have them patched. Then the Chinese, Russians, criminals wouldn't be able to break in. Sadly, that's not how security works. You can patch 100 vulnerabilities, but if you miss one, you'll still lose. Staying open about every vulnerability would almost certainly hurt foreign intelligence, true. But if the U.S. government is sharing every vulnerability they know about and the enemy isn't, then U.S. intelligence is going to be at a disadvantage, hands down. So when Exodus wants to invest time and money in finding exploits in your favorite application and turning a profit to help their government against Chinese, Russian criminal agencies, that doesn't bother me. And sadly, the link is in the show notes. Sadly, there seem to be people that agreed with him. This is mind-blowing to me that someone would actually say that the entire world community knowing about a vulnerability is somehow not a good thing. And it's even crazier to say, well, the Russians, the Chinese, you know, that's nuts. The problem, it is absolutely true. And he kind of brings this up, but he just sort of writes it off. It's absolutely true that keeping these things, like perhaps Heartbleed, some people have theorized that the Heartbleed bug, which was the worst bug to ever happen to the internet in a decade, okay, that it was known by the NSA for 2 years and exploited by them. Not necessarily proven that that's the case, but a lot of people have theorized that. And certainly for a whole bunch of other exploits, we do know that that was the case. No, that makes everything more insecure. Everything. This is the point of open source software, is that you get to know whether or not what you're using is doing everything that it says. This is all about transparency. The question becomes, would the Chinese and the Russians be even interested in looking into what's happening in the U.S. if all the shit was in the open? That's crazy to make the argument to say, look, you know, well, this is creating a monetary incentive to find these bugs, so that's great. Let's do that. No, not at all. The monetary incentive should be to pay better coders so that this stuff never exists and businesses can go about their business instead of worrying about security. You know, talk about it. Here's another theory for you. A lot of people theorize that some of the original antivirus software, Norton, created the original viruses to create the necessity for their software. Why would you think that somehow keeping these things a secret is somehow good? Well, I don't want the Russians or the Chinese to have it. What? They can't do. I mean, this is patriotism en masse. It's like I don't even understand. this is really, I mean, this is the most simple rules. If there are rules of economics, this is one of the most simple rules. This is like saying that, well, a window breaking is a great idea because then the person who repairs windows has something to do. No, it's a fallacy. That's crazy. The good thing to do is to make windows that never break. The thing that makes economic sense is to do that. The money should be spent. If the NSA cared about security, they would spend, or if the U.S. government cared about security, I should say, they would spend all of their dollars, okay, paying people to be better coders, coming up with better ways. I mean, that's where you should be putting the investment. The investment is not to, okay, let's let the security leaks happen so that we can spy on everybody. The investment should be put into, let's make software that's impossible to crack, or that's incredibly difficult to crack, or that's easy to find, or that makes it easier to find bugs, different programming languages, and different programming languages are really important. In fact, it's interesting. I think Google knows, I think a lot of companies know, but I think Google knows how serious of a problem this is, and that this is the order of the day, and that this is how things are going. And Google is really, talking about multiple internets, Google is really creating its own internet. Don't believe me? Google domains. Go to domains.google.com. Go check it out. Yes, they are creating their own DNS system. It's piggybacked on the one we've got, but believe me, that there's a big picture going on here. They are, okay, we talked about Heartbleed, the open SSL problem. What does Google do? We'll make our own. They call it boring SSL. Clever name. I think Google recognizes the order of the day, that governments want there to be security holes. They want there to be problems. And so Google is coming up with real solutions. They came up with their own, they were part of the team that created one of the best programming languages I've seen to date, that being Go. I think a lot of these companies recognize what's going on. I'm not going to say that they're somehow heroes against the government, by no means. Okay. But I do think that they see that there's no way, under current implementation, under the way that things are being done, under the nationalism that exists, under all the problems that exist in the world today, that the way things are happening, that can't go on. And it just lends itself to companies like Exodus and Vupen and the NSA wanting security holes. And that's against their business model. So their incentive is to tighten things up. That's the direction that we should go. I don't want Google doing it necessarily, but that is the direction that we should be heading. No, we need to let these companies be and let them keep finding the holes and make a ton of money off of it. Wow, people think that way. Hey, everybody. I really appreciate all of you that listen to Sovryn Tech. I hope you have as much fun listening to the show as I do making it. And hey, if you have a good time listening or learn something from listening, you can donate to the show. Just look in the show notes at sovryntech.com. There you'll see addresses for Bitcoin, BLACKCOIN, Next, LITECOIN, whole slew of ways to donate to the show. And believe me, I'm not going to complain if you only send 2 millibits, or what equates to $2, unlike some people. But, also you can donate via PayPal using the affiliate links on the left-hand side of sovryntech.com. And oh yes, please feel free to use those affiliate links. You can also help the show by circling me on Google+, following me on Twitter, or following Sovryn Tech on SoundCloud. Anything you can do to help, believe me, it helps. So I love all of you, and thank you so much for listening. Now let's get back to more Sovryn Tech. Well, looks like we made it out of the country. Good driving. Let's find some place to relax.
Somewhere with a nice big bed, I think. Let me pull up an app.
Sounds good to me.
Software of the Week.
It is time for Software of the Week, where I cover software that's useful. Sometimes it's terrible. Sometimes, I don't know. Sometimes it's something. No. This week, this is actually really cool. And this is not really relative to a lot of what we've been talking about, but this is really new and hot, and I want people to get in on the beta on this. I think this is so slick, and I've just been messing with it, and I really like it. And what it is, it's a new Android browser, web browser called Atlas, and it's made by the guys at NextApp, which they've done they've done other software in the past that was always pretty good. File Explorer, they've made some really good ones, and some like web sharing for Wi-Fi. That was nice. Anyway, Atlas it's got a beautiful look. It very much has that kind of the material design. That's sort of the new design language, we'll call it, that Google's shooting for. And so it has that, and it is beautiful to see. If you haven't seen material, this is the way to do it. But it allows for some really unique features. One is it has AdBlock Plus built into it, which is really handy. And because it has it built into it, you have a lot of options of how you want to see the internet. And it's very fast. It uses a lot less memory than the Chrome browser does. And I don't know about you. I have my Galaxy Nexus that I'm still using, and Chrome is starting to really run very rough. I am not happy with, with how slow Chrome runs on my device. But Atlas really solved that. I mean, it is smoking fast. And you have a lot of really quick options. There's a setting button up top that you can hit, and that allows you to use different, like what is it? Easy List, I think, for AdBlock Plus, that'll block, all that, JavaScript and everything. And you can use your custom scripts with it, which is really cool. And they're not hard. Like this, the other nice thing too, is that the implementation of this is so easy. It goes through the setup the first time you install it, and it says, okay, what would you like to block? And it explains what each AdBlock Plus list does. And again, easy. You can't beat the setup of this. And then again, like I said, it has the settings button on top after you get through it all. Okay. And it learns as you go what you like, what you don't like, what you want to actually show ads for. You can whitelist and blacklist pages, all very simple, big buttons to press for all of those. You're not going into you don't have to go into a settings panel, even though you don't have to go into a settings, like this really advanced settings, deep, in-depth business, at all. And so you have different experience options. You can easily switch between desktop and mobile modes of a web page. You can also, they have 3 settings called hi-fi, lo-fi, and text. And this is cool. Hi-fi pretty much gives you how the website, comes out to you. And if you don't have AdBlock Plus on, you'll get to see all the JavaScript. You get to see everything as it is. But then you can also set it to lo-fi. And what it does, as soon as you press the button for lo-fi, it'll reload the page, and that'll kill all the JavaScript. It'll kill a whole bunch of different stuff. And then there's even a third setting that goes to text, which just leaves all the text and hyperlinks available on a page. And this can be really cool, especially if you read blogs and web pages a lot. To just do the text setting makes everything look great. It's kind of like on the Kindle Paperwhite, how on the browser on there you can go into article mode. This is really like that, and I love it. I think that's really cool. It's a ton of options for you to go for. There's a privacy mode. They are a company that there's no ads in this. They actually claim, and NextApp I think can pretty well back this claim up, with the idea that they are, very privacy minded. In fact, there is of course kind of an incognito setting that you can go to. There's a whole bunch of options that you can look into. This will be right now in beta. It's free, but there will be a paid app version of this that'll have a lot of those features built in. But I mean, it's amazing really, because with Android, most paid apps cost $1 or $2. And honestly, if you use the Google Opinion reward system, usually you get that for free anyway. But it's always worth paying for. But it's amazing that for the first time, Android is really and maybe this will change in the future, but a lot of people like Opera and others for decades, it seems, were trying to get people to pay to use their web browser, to pay for a web browser as software. Android's actually pulling that off, where people are willing to pay for advanced abilities of a web browser. And so I think it's worth it. I thought this is going to be my new default web browser. I was using Firefox before as my default web browser on Android. But I am so pleased with how well this works. Now, of course, if you're doing something quote unquote nefarious online, obviously I use Orbot with Tor enabled, right? But otherwise, for my average everyday stuff, I really like what Atlas is doing. And NextApp, it's not a company that's that's just out of nowhere. They've been around for a good long while and been doing a lot of development with Android. They're not a Johnny-come-lately. And I think Atlas actually, amazingly, looks like the most advanced browser I've ever seen on mobile. I am really impressed. So check it out. Link is in the show notes for you to find that. And I'll be back with some more Sovryn tech in just a moment.
What does freedom mean? Tune in to LRN.FM to find out. LRN.FM is the Liberty Radio Network, a collection of live talk radio and podcasts, all coming from a principled pro-liberty perspective. LRN.FM show hosts aren't left, right, or conspiracy kooks. You can tune in 24/7 to LRN.FM via your phone, computer, satellite, and more. Listen free anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM. Oh, Natalia.
Oh, it feels so good. I'm so close.
I know what you need.
The climax.
Oh, I know what you need. That's so good. I wonder if, who knows what people do to that. I used to jerk off to the sound of White Zombie's More Human Than Human in the beginning of that off of Astro Creep 2000, because there's a woman moaning, and I was just like, oh my God, that is so hot. And anyway, yeah, there's a whole new, the lovely and hyper intelligent doctor, or should I say, I changed it up the other day. I made it the intelligent and hyper sexy Dr. Stephanie Murphy. She just said that there's a whole new generation of people just jerking off to Sovryn tech now. I don't know. The internet makes all that stuff so prevalent. I can't imagine anyone needing me, or not me, but this show. Moving on. A couple points before I get into the main climax. And of course, the climax is where I talk about whatever I want to talk about. It could be a movie, it could be a topic, could be TV show, an album or something. A couple things I want to bring up is that I saw The Expendables 3 and I didn't think it was as good as the first two. Yes, that's right. I saw The Expendables 3 and it doesn't come out until August 12th, maybe. Anyway, you know what that means, folks. The other thing that was actually really great was the new Judas Priest album, Dragonaut. It was phenomenal. The whole album, I totally transported me back to like Ram It Down. I thought it was really good. I enjoyed the album immensely, so do check that out. But something that actually the lovely and hyper intelligent, the intelligent and hyper sexy Dr. Stephanie Murphy and I enjoyed was the movie Noah. That's right. That one with Russell Crowe. So if you haven't seen it yet, turn off the podcast right now. And I assure you, you can see it without going to theaters. And it was, this came out in March 2014. Of course, Jennifer Connelly was also in it, Emma Watson, some others. One of my favorites, Anthony Hopkins, was in it. And it was a really great film. Really, really well done. Of course, Darren Aronofsky made it, and Aronofsky's famous for Pi. If you remember that movie from, was it like 98? And now I know a lot of people would, there were some Christians who were like, well, this isn't like the Bible at all. This doesn't make any sense, blah, blah, blah. No, I realize that. In fact, I'd hope my listeners know that I know the Bible rather well. Rather well that might be modest. And so I'm fully aware of all the problems and all the, inaccuracies that the movie Noah had within it. Amazingly, though, a lot of Christian groups like Focus on the Family and others had no problem with it whatsoever. They thought it was fantastic and that it talked about creation. It talked about all this stuff. Well, as far as what it talked about creation, it clearly laid out evolution as being the way things, as being the heart of creation. Yes, there was a creator, but evolution is how the business went down. And it's interesting also, this is just kind of a side note. It's interesting that the word God might have been used once in conversation, but not really in reference to the creator. They just kept calling him creator. They didn't call him God, which I found fascinating. Of course, if you're of a very, very orthodox Judaism bent, you know that you don't type those words out. And so maybe that was the problem, is that you can't, or you put G-D because you can't type it out. Or, you can use the word Hashem, but they didn't even use that. So that's interesting that they just kept calling him creator. But moving on, this movie was, just the production values were fantastic. And I give it a lot of credit for having no problem, for being such a major production, which it was, and getting such a, huge film release, and the critics really seemed to enjoy it. For getting all that, it had no problem with going really wacky, for being very mystical at points, and for really exploring the idea that the antediluvian world was very different from, or at least it had some very different features than what we deal with today. Okay, if this were, an accurate depiction of what life was like. And I say that in contrast to movies like, there was a Noah movie made. It was a miniseries, I think, by ABC in the early aughts that had John Voight playing Noah. And that movie was just an atrocity. That miniseries was an atrocity, no matter whether you're a Christian or Jewish or not. But that one tried to make the world before the flood, what they call the antediluvian world, as normal and as believable as possible, as to where Noah had no problem really going out on a limb. And the movie Noah, and I give it a lot of credit for doing that. So the amazing thing for me, though, with this movie, especially considering that Focus on the Family and a lot of other groups thought that this was all, happy dandy, is that you have this group, you have Watchers, okay, which are these molten creatures. They were angels that came down, and you actually see that kind of occur in a flashback sequence, and they become what look like, walking volcanoes. They have arms and legs, but just these very weird creatures that seem to have like a magma center at them. They interact with humans. Humans accept that they're there. But these are really the fallen angels. And in fact, one of them, his name is Sam Yazel, which is really a lot of people attribute to a lot of especially Nicene church fathers in Christianity, except as being Satan. And Sam Yazel in this movie says, I just wanted to help mankind out. And like he talks about the serpent, and you constantly get these visions from Noah about the serpent who offered, Adam and Eve, or offered Eve the apple, and Adam and Eve ate it, and they treat the creation story as kind of how it is. There's even a flashback sequence where you see Adam and Eve. Of course, they're kind of beings of light, which is interesting. And he says, I'm here, I just wanted to help humanity. And they keep saying that, yeah, we taught you how to do, all these things. We taught you how to build cities. And they had cities before the flood, according to this. And we taught you all of this stuff. And of course, the Bible says that there were cities of a sort, back then anyway, because we wanted to help you. And that's interesting that any Christian would have a problem with the fact that the character of Satan, or that these fallen angels who are cast out of heaven, according to the Bible, are good guys. People should be up in arms about this, and they weren't. Now, the interesting thing is that the way these creatures look, and that the fact that they are fallen angels, and that they helped with creation, it would seem. And the interesting thing comes from that is that this movie isn't Christian at all. And in fact, it's not really Jewish at all, unless you are a practicer of Kabbalah. Real Kabbalah, not the Madonna shit. Unless you're that, it's not your film. This is a Gnostic movie. All the way. And God, in fact, in this movie, is not a good guy. God's not the good guy. Now, the archons, I'm sorry, I just gave it away. In Gnosis, in Gnostic history, now Gnosticism is a kind of a rebel branch of Christianity that claimed that the God of the Old Testament, they called him the Demiurge, that he was evil and that he trapped souls here. Okay, and that he had these like fire volcanic beings, very similar to what you see in the movie, called archons, that helped him create everything. And so you're getting, that's the history you're actually getting out of this. And to, mince in the Kabbalistic stuff is that when you see Adam and Eve, they are beings of light. And actually, when you read, if you read the book of Zohar, which you hear the word Zohar used a lot in this movie. When you read the book of Zohar in Kabbalah, you find out that Adam and Eve weren't even corporeal. So this is a movie that is, by Christian standards, this is one of the most satanic movies ever made. And it should be one of the most insulting movies ever made. And so I loved the movie. Now, I'll admit that I loved the movie, that it just brought in all the mysticism, Satanism, Kabbalism, take your pick. It brought it all in, and it just right under everybody's nose. Aronofsky just slips this baby in. I like it for that. Okay. But I don't mind me if I get a little pissed off that I don't see online a bunch of Christians, or Focus on the Family at least, saying, hey, what the hell is this movie? What are you trying to push on us? Does anybody read anything out of does anybody read the Bible anymore? Anyone? I mean, I don't expect all of my listeners to. I say this all the time. Look, if you want to be, whatever spirituality you want to go with it. But own up to it. Live up to it. Be a part of it. Know it. Everything I saw in this movie, in fact, you know what? There's this great book, okay, that I used to read when I was a Christian, that I read that was really important. It was written in the 2nd century. 2nd century. Keep in mind, the Bible, Jesus, whatever, existed. Maybe not the Bible, but Jesus existed in the 1st century. So you're not too far off from the original source, right? If this is all true. And the guy named Irenaeus, who was a church father, he wrote a book called Against Heresies. And you can get copies of this on Kindle even. Okay. And in this book, it will tell you everything that was said that the movie Noah was about. And it tells you that it's all heretical, that it is all anti-Christian. It's Bible, it's anti-Torah, it's anti the word. And nobody brings this up. What the fuck? Can I get an amen? Please?
Amen.
Thank you. Anyway, it was a great movie. But it is laced. I mean, like, there's the point where Noah just becomes this bloodthirsty madman, claims he's going to kill children. And that just lends more to the fact that, hey, this is about the demiurge. This is because he's doing God's will, and he gets the sign from God. And that's because God is an evil motherfucker. And nobody talks about it. And in fact, most Christian groups are just like, oh, yay, happy yay. So it's interesting, and it gives you a really wild perspective. And to say nothing of the fact that the family banner, now Noah, of course, is the descendant of Seth, okay? And so he is like, entrusted with various things by the creator in this movie. It's fascinating that the banner he keeps waving and that he plants at the end of the movie is a gigantic eye, just one eye. Fascinating stuff. Anyway, I enjoy the film for multiple reasons. It was a really well done film, really well acted, really well produced. And I enjoy the fact that it was straight up, Kabbalah and Gnosticism slipped under everybody's nose and nobody recognized it. Good for Aronofsky. Nice move. Because Pi was actually a very Gnostic film as well. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the show. I'll carpe lucem. I'm just going to end it there. I'll see you on the other side.
You just experienced Sovryn Tech. Go to sovryntech.com. That's SOVRYN tech.com
and connect with us there. Find links from today's show and catch our podcast feed. Sovryn Tech is copy heart. Copying art is an act of love, and love is not subject to law. So please share the show however you like. Welcome to the evolution.